Pew pew.
Hi guys, it's Lana. I've been wanting to do videos where I basically just sit down and talk about like past experiences and stories and stuff like that. So in the last video that I did about my past, one of the topics that I brought up was my Asperger's, and ever since then a lot of people have been asking about it, saying that they could relate, etc. So I wanted to make my first sit-down video about that. So I guess first I'll go into what it was like to have it, and then I'll go into later on what it was like to overcome it. I don't really feel like you can ever completely get rid of all the symptoms. Like as normal as I might seem to you guys, and as talkative and like as not shy as I might be on camera, I still kind of have like some of the symptoms. I probably still have it by at least like 5% left or something like that. So I don't think you can completely get rid of it, but you can do your best to alleviate it as much as you can. So ever since I can remember, I was always extremely different from other children. I could never fit in with them. Like the things I liked were bizarre back then. They're not bizarre now, but back then they were weird to people, and I couldn't ever conform to what they liked. And it's not that it was even like a conscious kind of like thing in my head to be like, oh, I don't want to change myself for other people. It just like, I guess it didn't occur to me that that was a thing you can even do. I didn't know how to like or be anything other than myself. So that definitely caused a lot of trouble for me making friends, because neither of us could like relate on anything. And like I would make friends, but every time I would just slowly lose them. And like and when I did have friends, I always wondered like why was I never like the favorite friend to other people? Like why is it that when I make friends they always like have people they like better than me all the time? It also didn't help that I lacked social cues. So for example, one of the things I would do of many is that I would like be really obnoxious or like talk louder than I thought I was talking, and I would only notice until people would tell me. And it just kept happening like over and over again until people wouldn't want to be my friend anymore. And that hurt me a lot. So to me, like I didn't know how to fix it. Like I didn't really know what was wrong with me because I couldn't really piece it together or like figure out like what to fix anyway. So my like solution to that was to kind of just shy away and just talk less and interact less with people. I ended up thinking of myself as lower than everybody else. Eventually that developed into massive social anxiety, and I wouldn't want to go to school. I wouldn't want to like interact with people. I would just want to be by myself constantly. And just the thought of like having a conversation with anybody scared me, because I didn't want to get hurt like I did in the past. It also really made it a lot worse that people would bully me because I looked different, and it just basically resulted in me having like this massive, like really weird kind of self-loathing. But it was like it was the kind where like you don't acknowledge that you hate yourself, and more so that you just kind of like stop acknowledging everything about yourself altogether. Like I would like avoid mirrors. I would refuse to just I didn't care about myself at all. I wouldn't take care of myself. I would just block everybody out and just indulge in anything that made me happy at that very moment. I don't want to make this into a sob fest, but I mean, like my teachers too were like, some of them are really terrible. Like one of them would like humiliate me in front of the class because he knew that I wouldn't be able to defend myself. Basically, I had really bad ADD, so I was always like daydreaming inside my own head, and I didn't know how to shut it off. Like it was just like a constant different thought in the back of my head at all times, and it was really distracting. Like I couldn't think of anything else. Like when a teacher was like talking, trying to explain something in the class, I wouldn't be able to listen, like no matter what, even if I would have to try really, really hard. But as soon as I stopped, like I would just go back immediately. And I like that went for like conversations too. I would hear two people, for example, or like a group of people just talk, like, and if it was anything less basic than like, oh, what did you have for breakfast? If it was like an actual like semi-intellectual conversation about anything, it was a strange feeling of like them having a back and forth and me not really being able to understand what they're saying. It was weird. I couldn't have, I was incapable of having like any sort of critical thought. Like I was almost like I guess like a zombie, for lack of a better word. Even if people did try to talk to me and I tried to, like aside from my anxiety, I still wouldn't have anything intelligent to add even if I tried. And it was a really terrible situation because it's basically like being in a prison without actually knowing that you're in a prison. When people would try to care about me, or when I was supposed to show reactions of needing to care about others, I would just act like to them, like, because they couldn't understand. I just seemed like a total asshole. I seemed like I didn't give any fucks, but I was just trying to constantly block out the idea that people could possibly care about me because I was afraid of, I mean, I think there was a lot of reasons. I was afraid of the feeling of being let down, I guess. Like I'd rather just like not acknowledge it at all than to know that they tried and then gave up. And also caring, I guess, would also be in a sense like sort of acknowledging yourself, which I didn't want to do. So I think what makes this a little bit more different than other people's issue for me personally is that I think deep down I really did love myself like the entire time, and like just the thought of it, just the thought that I might, like, made me want to cry and tell myself how wrong I was, but I didn't want to do that because I dug a hole so deep for myself that I was in such a shitty situation that I just didn't even want to give it any thought at all. Another thing that made my situation even worse was since I was so alienated from everybody, the only person I had to talk to was my mom. And my mom, she's an amazing person at heart, but she's not, like, it wasn't really her choice to have a kid, so like she isn't really the greatest mom. So what she would do is whenever I would try to tell her something, she would usually not take it seriously or like laugh at it or think it's silly or like shrug at it or whatever. Just like she would constantly just not take me seriously, even though she was the only person that I could really talk to. And it literally drove me insane that she wasn't taking me seriously because I wasn't getting like any acknowledgement from anybody else either. So because of that, I was kind of a little bit in my own way definitely going insane inside my head. So again, my response to all of this crushing me wasn't becoming suicidal or hating myself. It was because I don't think that I'm actually capable of doing that. I don't think I could actually consciously hate myself like that, but it affected me in a way where like I would just completely shut like everything off. So one common symptom of Asperger's is to just obsessively be into like very, very specific things. Not so like anime, for example, is one of them, but even more specific than that, like being way too into a certain show or like a certain character. That's how people with Asperger's usually are, and that's how I was. So I would just be super into for example, one of the things that I was into that would piss my friends off so much is that I was way too into Hamtaro. The only this is so silly. The only topics I would have or like care to have with my friends is just fucking Hamtaro. What the last episode of Hamtaro was this morning, what it was about, and like bring the video games to school and stuff. I would have phases of certain things where it would change like every like year or so, but like that's basically how it was. I would just move on to the next thing. And to me, that was happiness. Like, I didn't know shit about relationships or dream jobs or anything like that. The only thing I gave a fuck about was whatever I was into at that time. And nobody can change my mind on that at the time. I didn't really care about school because aside from my ADD making it very hard for me to understand, I couldn't put any thought into myself, like I was explaining earlier. I didn't really care about my future because to me, my future didn't really mean anything. The only thing that meant anything to me was the now and then getting home and watching anime or whatever. My serious issue with having trouble acknowledging myself also led me to a lot of future problems, like a lot of very abusive ex-boyfriends, because I would just, like, no matter what they did, like neglect or just straight up being a complete dick, I would just stay, and I could feel it too. I could feel that I didn't even really like them like that. To me it was just, if I can't keep this one person in the entire world that likes me, then what good am I? How am I worth anything if the one person that said that they're into me no longer likes me anymore? So because I lack social cues and like basic understanding of psychology, I would just let people step all over me. People could be complete dicks to me, like in school or in relationships or family members even. A lot of the time I wouldn't know that they're doing it, but when I did, I would just like smile and just act nice. I would never fight back. I would like the day after, I would just act as nice as possible to them, and no matter what they did, I just continued not fighting back. And let me tell you, it's definitely not a good trait to have nowadays. So people did more than step all over me. I've had some very, very, very terrible things done to me because I was a target for abuse, because people knew that, like, I would just keep it to myself constantly. So because of that, I had the absolute worst relationships ever. I've had very, very fucked up things done to me. My ex-boyfriend raped me for an entire year. By the way, I don't want this to sound like a sob story. Honestly, all these things that I'm explaining to you guys, they don't hurt me anymore. I feel like I've completely gotten over them. I just want to share my story to you guys to be able to hopefully reach out to people who can relate. And in my next video, I want to also explain like how I got over my Asperger's and my disabilities, so I can help more people. But anyway, so when I started camming, I obviously had no idea what I was doing, because somebody in my state isn't gonna know how to be sexy. Are you kidding me? That was the last thing I knew how to do. I didn't know how to like look at somebody in the face when they're talking to me. So obviously being sexy or alluring was definitely not something in my knowledge book. I had to learn it as I went. Also, just talking on cam, eventually I wasn't anxious anymore like I used to be, but I just sounded really dumb and awkward, and I'm sure a lot of people could tell that I had issues, like social issues, because of the way I talked. And I would also have this thing where I'll say things that I don't mean. Like I'll say like a lot of rude things to you without actually realizing that they sound rude as fuck. And I would do that on cam too, and it would piss people off. And somehow I got by, but I feel like with my age at the time, I definitely should have boomed harder than I did. But because of all the things that I had, I kind of fucked that up for myself, and then I had to just like gradually claw my way back up to the top, as well as learn how to socialize with people and stuff like that. But camming really helped me, because it forced me, I don't want to go into detail too much about how camming helped me, because I want to leave all of that for a part 2. But yeah, as I cam more and more, the symptoms got a little better. The camming is a huge reason as to why I got better, but it's not the main reason. And yeah, I feel like I got most of the main points. But yeah, I feel like I got most of the main points. If you guys are interested in the second video where I explain how I got better, and then please stay tuned and stick around for the next video, which should be up within at least like maybe the next 2 weeks. So yeah, if you guys enjoyed the video, please subscribe and stay tuned for the next one. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Bye bye.